All of y'all posting tributes to Brigitte Bardot after she passed away this week at the age of 91. Y'all know that she sucked, right? I don't mean a little bit. I don't mean that she said some problematic thing or like had one shitty take here and there. No. I've been a little bit flummoxed at the amount of people who have posted tributes after she died. In fact, I had notes to sit down and film on this, and I was going to include Chappell Roan's response. But then I noticed that 3 hours ago, Chappell Roan pulled down her tribute because she found out that Brigitte Bardot fucking sucked. I'm sorry, I'm not somebody who believes that we shouldn't speak ill of the dead, especially if they did a tremendous amount of harm when they were alive. The first post I saw about this yesterday was on Facebook from a magazine that I was completely unfamiliar with. Evie magazine that I didn't know from anybody, but if you're on Facebook, immediately you're going to be inundated with right-wing propaganda. And right away, I saw this first line: Brigitte Bardot was one of the few courageous voices in France for criticizing her government over mass immigration. We remember her as an icon, a generational beauty and talent who embraced her femininity and spoke the truth even when defamed and vilified. Are you fucking kidding me? This is my comment at the bottom: Evie Mag, sane-washing racism. Right, so I immediately screen grabbed that and I posted it on my Facebook page with commentary of like, do y'all not know what she said and did during her life? Like, just a heads up, everybody, she was a real piece of work. But then I started to see other folks posting similar tributes that were not full of like racist nonsense, but like, oh, she was a great beauty. We mourn her passing, blah, 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 blah. Talked about some of the roles that she played. And I saw Chappell Roan's tribute post. The Huffington Post had like a real kind of not even neutral, but kind of positive post about Bardot. Right? Here's the HuffPo. Brigitte Bardot, the French actress of the 1960s who became one of the greatest screen sirens of the 20th century and later a militant animal rights activist, has died. To me, that headline was real weird because, yeah, she was a vegan animal rights activist. Why the hell do you think she was so fucking racist? She was fined multiple times by the French government for spreading racist propaganda, inciting racist hate speech. Bardot had a long history of racist Islamophobic comments against immigrants coming into France, and also low-key just about non-white people in general. In 2021, she was fined 20,000 euros for racist slurs against the native Ruanese people. She called them savages. Specifically, she called the Hindu Tamil population of the island savages because they sacrificed goats. She equated them to cannibals of the last century. This is exactly like the comments I got from white vegan activists in my comments about the connection between veganism and white supremacy. The vegan to alt-right pipeline, I got the exact same talking points from y'all in my comments, equating indigenous people eating their traditional foods with cannibalism, saying that indigenous people had to eat the way that y'all white folks want them to, or else you get to, treat them like Brigitte Bardot treated the people of La Réunion Island? Again, 0% surprised that a white animal rights vegan activist would be racist. But people got big mad at me for pointing that out a couple of weeks ago. I should have referenced Bardot back then. I didn't realize she was still alive, or I would have. But it wasn't just racism. Bardot was also known for being an anti-feminist, despite the kind of sexually liberated characters that she played. She once called sexual assault against women no big deal and said that we should just get used to it. She also was extremely homophobic and called gay people, I had to look it up to make sure I was being accurate here, festival freaks. Now, I want to say here that we all can change our mind when we are presented with new information. It's okay to have a bad take and retract it. It's okay to say, you know what, I didn't know enough there and I have changed my mind. I apologize. I am taking down that post that I made. And that's exactly what Chappell Roan did today. I'm not like a huge fan of hers, even though I have big Chappell Roan fans in this house. I didn't realize that her song Red Wine Supernova was inspired by Bardot, or she claimed that Bardot was the muse for that song. And so when Bardot passed away, she made a tribute. She said, "Rest in peace, Ms. Bardot. She was my inspiration for Red Wine Supernova." But after her fans informed her of all of the racist, homophobic, and anti-feminist shit Bardot had said and done over the years and how unapologetic she was for holding those reprehensible positions, Chappell Roan took down her Instagram post and said, "Holy shit, I did not know all of the insane shit Ms. Bardot stood for. Obs, I do not condone this. Very disappointing to learn." To me, I don't think there's any room here to rip into Chappell Roan. I think that this is a case of somebody who saw an actress who was renowned for her beauty, the, again, like really progressive kind of sexually liberated roles she played when she was younger, and people might not have followed that story all the way through, might not have known about what she did for decades and decades and the horrible things that she said in the name of her animal rights activism. And I get it. People don't want to hear about the vegan activism to alt-right pipeline, the animal rights activism to alt-right pipeline. When I made a video about blood and soil and the neo-Nazi movement in the United States and how wrapped up that is with veganism, how food purity and racial purity throughout history often go hand in hand, how white people dictating to non-white people the correct way to eat, limiting their foods as a form of cultural erasure and judgment. And again, it's all about purity. Like, I know that people didn't want to hear about all of those connections, but they do exist. That doesn't mean that every vegan is a white supremacist. Let's not waffles and pancakes this. Let's not bean soup this. But we would be foolish to ignore the ways that these things are interconnected and the way that our kind of very zealous ideologies can very quickly become alt-right pipelines. Now, it's not clear to me whether Bardot first became an animal rights activist or whether that came after she started adopting other far-right views. But from what I could find in terms of a timeline of her actions and things that are, you know, like publicly available about what she said and did, it does appear that the animal rights activism came first. And then these other kind of fringe, like far right statements and her move to the alt-right came after. Again, I don't recommend going and reading her book, A Cry in the Silence, because you will be angry and horrified. As the LA Times said in their review of the book, she rails against Muslims, gays, intellectuals, drug abusers, female politicians, immigrants, and the professionally unemployed, as she calls them. She was fined a total of 6 times over the years for inciting racial hatred, again, predominantly against Muslims, but also against Jews and other minorities. She said that the Me Too movement was a campaign fueled by hatred of men. She was upset that men were getting canceled and thrown into the ditch for groping women. She wrote letters to world leaders demanding animal rights, but didn't seem to care too much about the rights of women and girls or indigenous people or Muslims or Jews. So when Chappell Roan found out all of this context, all of this additional history, she took down her original post and was like, whoa, sorry, I don't want to be associated with this. Now that I know better, I'm changing my opinion. I think we should all applaud Chappell for being able to do that in public. It's so rare that we give people the space to be human in public, especially people with a huge following. We expect them to know everything, to not have any gaps, any places where they are ignorant, and we expect them to have perfect opinions all of the time, instead of just being an actual person who may have significant gaps in their understanding and could be like, oh, I changed my mind. No big deal. Yep, I don't think that anymore. Thank you for correcting me. I really appreciate that. And gosh, there's so many connections between Bardot's story and so many other elements of the alt-right. This reminds me of a video I made a couple of weeks ago, correcting another creator who said that your evil shows on the outside, that if you're a bad person, that shows up in your physical appearance. And I was like, equating beauty with goodness is profoundly flawed. There's lots of very evil people who are very aesthetically pleasing. Oh, Ms. Bardot. Just one example. It is a fallacy to believe that beauty and goodness are synonymous. And I think a lot of people did that here because she was stunningly gorgeous. That excused or caused them to overlook all of the terrible things she said and did over the years. Yeah, I feel like there's a nice little case study here. All of the layers of white supremacy, far right, racist ideology. How much of that we overlook in the name of activism, in the name of beauty, in the name of wealth. But in case you, like Chappell Roan, were likewise wrongly informed about Brigitte Bardot, none of us need to be mourning her passing.